The story usually goes like this. A long time ago on a peaceful day, the Demon King invaded the kingdom. And as the demons marched the kingdom, an unknown hero appeared, as if that hero has been waiting for a long time. During the final battle between the Demon King and the hero sacrificed himself. He was able to defeat the Demon King and save the world. The Demon King descended deep underground and fell into slumber, and he would return one day. To add this cliché sentence that you have always heard of 1,000 times that can make you sleepy, the world became peaceful and the hero turned into a legend. I don't know who the author is, but this over-sophisticated story of the Demon King and the hero will keep repeating itself forever. And after a very long time, the present comes. One demon opens the door to the chambers of the Demon King's place. That demon kneels down to the Demon King and tells His Majesty that something bad has happened. The current Demon King asks him, "What is it?" The servant demon said, "It is about Demiourgos. Demiourgos the 666th has awakened." As soon as he did, he left the demon realm. The servant demon shouted, telling the Demon King that Demiourgos said that he quits being the Demon King. The Demon King asks, "What the hell are you saying?" The Demon King told him to speak about what happened. The servant demon told him that he thinks that Demiourgos run away. He shows him the letter. What is written in it is, "I quit being the Demon King. Don't look for me, you idiots. Bye." The current Demon King was shocked to see that. Meanwhile, Demiourgos, this bastard, was walking towards one of the kingdoms in the human realms. He looked at the large castle and said, "Oh, this is the Verdi Kingdom's Acroma Castle." He starts dancing while singing, walking on the bridge to the castle. In his mind, how cozy, as expected of the human realm I heard so much about. But he suddenly glares into something when an unpleasant thing is seen by his eyes. He thought that everything in that place gave comfort except for that cursed relic that was above the castle. Then some soldiers approached him and they shouted, "Hey, you country bumpkin, where did you come from? Where do you think this is for you to be walking about like that?" Hearing that, Demiourgos starts questioning his mind. Country bumpkin, is he talking about me? He thought that maybe it was because of his clothes, because his face was fine though. The soldier shouted, "How dare you loiter in front of the Acroma Castle? Seems like you have lost your sense of fear." The soldier asks, "Why are you looking around?" I am talking to you. What is your name?" Demiourgos starts to question if they are referring to him. He starts thinking, in his mind, I cannot tell him that I am Demiourgos the 666th. Yeah, I will take some letters out and say like this. Demiourgos smiled and introduced himself. He said, "Hello human, I am Deus." Then while this soldier were interrogating Demiourgos, whom we will call him Deus from now on to shorten his name, a sudden man in armor appeared. It was Count Bruo. The Count said, "To claim the name of the ancient god like that, don't you know that this is the capital of the Verdi Kingdom? If you said that without knowing, I will forgive you just this once, so get lost immediately." Deus smiled and asked, "Is the Verdi Kingdom strong?" That question hits the nerve of the Count, so he asks Deus what he means. Deus said, "It is strong enough to take me as its king, right?" That question really made the Count so angry that his eyes started shining and he pointed his sword towards Deus. The Count shouted, "How dare you insult the royal family? For your foolishness, you will pay with your life." Deus just looks at him and uses the power within his eyes. The next thing that happens is the head of the Count explodes like a balloon. The blood was gushing out and one of the soldiers was questioning what happened to the Count. The shape of the soldier's head started to change as if it were being molded from within as it expanded. And of course, their heads also exploded. The soldiers were panicking, asking why their heads started to explode. I will not show it just to censor that scene. Deus starts waving his hand while singing like he is some sort of maestro leading the orchestra. And after that, all the heads of the soldiers to whom he pointed his hand exploded just like that. Archers who were above the wall saw what happened, and the captain's guard ordered the archers to attack Deus, and arrows were raining towards the Demon King. But before that arrow could hit Deus, the arrow stopped mid-air. Like what happened earlier, Deus looks at those archers on the wall. And of course, like the other soldiers, their heads also exploded just like that. Deus said the word, "Arise," and the black liquid came out from the bodies of these dead soldiers. They rose up from the dead in an inverted position. He told these dead bodies to greet him, which is their new king. This MC thinks that he is Sung Jinwoo from Solo Leveling, saying the word "arise" to this dead soldiers. Deus walks towards the large gate of the castle while those dead soldiers are also marching towards it. He said, "Praise these steps I take with your blood. Bless this body's ascension with your tears." Because of what happened in the sudden death of the soldiers guarding the gate, the remaining forces inside are panicking, running towards the gate to defend against the intruder, who is just one person, or we can say, one demon king. They start asking if a war has broken out to gather like that. The soldiers' captain shouted, "Bring everyone! The enemy has forced their way in. Everyone outside is already dead." Then while walking inside, Deus made the whole gate crumble like it was just some paper, and a way was made for him like with some action star. Deus said, "Use your screams as trumpets for me." The soldiers were alarmed by the appearance of Deus, as hundreds if not thousands of souls were gathering, surrounding him. The next thing that happened was that chaos was made all over the area. The soldiers were bleeding and dying one by one. Some are calling their mother, and some are even begging Deus just to kill them. But amidst that chaos, Deus was still walking unbothered. He even smiled like he was some sort of devil incarnate while others were screaming and dying one by one. Despite other soldiers dying, there was one knight not far away who knelt on his knees. Let's refer to him as a holy knight since he wields a light sword. He was saying his invocation to his God. He said, "The Almighty and Creator of this world, the virtuous, our Father, the God. Your name shines divinely as the Master of eternity. You decide the start and the end. In the trial of darkness, guide us with the light of the bright truth, and may we emerge victorious. Prevail against death and let the truth triumph over deceit." The holy knight starts unsheathing his sword and a bright light appears within it. The holy knight continued his invocation and he said, "Please destroy the evil in front of me and grant me the power to defeat it." But Deus was not even threatened by that sword. He smiled and said, "Oh, is that light aura? Are you Blood, the person I have heard about?" The holy knight said, "I don't know who you are, but you use black magic. It is unbelievable how you broke through a Chroma castle's defenses yourself. However, you won't be able to get past me, someone who has received God's blessing." He tells Deus that he may not be a pure blood, but he will still defeat him, and then he jumps at Deus aiming to bash him with his light aura sword. After that attack from the holy knight, when it hits the ground, it creates a massive explosion. It was a direct hit towards Deus, who was standing carefree. But suddenly he heard the voice of Deus that made the holy knight alarmed. When the smoke from that attack cleared up, he saw Deus holding his sword with just his bare hands, which made the holy knight shock. Deus asks, "What? That was nothing. Is it my turn now?" Then Deus starts mocking the prayer of the holy knight. He said, "The Father who is up in heaven, dear God, please kill this person. No, I mean this idiot." He smiled and said, "Now, I prayed too, so now shall we find out which one of us God will listen to." Hearing that made the holy knight quite alarmed. And the next thing that happened was that there was a hole that was made in the body of the holy knight. This guy becomes part of the donut group like Ace in One Piece. Deus was able to take away the heart of the holy knight that was still beating at that time. Deus looked back at him and said, "Don't bring up God in front of me again." The holy knight told him that no, he could not do that. But this guy was the demon king and was merciless. He shattered the heart of this holy knight. This guy becomes Killua from Hunter x Hunter. The soldiers gathered in the king's chamber, who was tasked to protect the king. Deus said, "Hello, everyone, you have been waiting for a while, right?" The knight shouted, "He is here. We are the final defense line, so defend this place with your life." But almost all of them were confused to see that only one person was standing in front of them. The king asks Deus who is he. Deus was walking toward the king and he said, "Seems like you are the king of the castle. Shall we have a conversation, king?" Hearing Deus talk carefree to the king, one of the knights points his weapon at Deus and he shouts, "How dare you address his majesty inappropriately?" Deus just flicks his finger. Then a lot of soldiers were pierced by the black magic he had. Deus asks, "Is there anyone else who wants to complain?" The soldiers could only curse because there is nothing that they can do. If they complain, they will end up like those other soldiers. Seeing that no soldier is complaining anymore, Deus feels good and starts spreading his wings and fly towards the king. The soldiers who were guarding the king felt alarmed by the sudden boost of the speed of Deus. The king was shocked when Deus suddenly appeared in front of him. Deus laughed and said, "Shall we start talking?" The king asks, "What is it that you want? Money? Nobility? Power?" I will give you anything within my power. Deus looks at him like the real demon king. He said, "No, I don't want that. Give me the kingdom." The greedy king, who looks like someone who could die from one cough, still just greedily yearned for the power of the kingdom. He told Deus that it is impossible for him to give him the kingdom. He was saying this while saliva was spilling from his mouth. Deus starts scratching his ears. He said, "If you can't, then die. When you die, I will claim the royal family as mine. That way, the kingdom will naturally become mine." The king starts to question why does he want his family. Then the king starts to realize something. He starts shouting and the snoot starts coming out from his nose. He said, "I know now. You bastard. You want my daughter." Deus starts scratching his head because this old king has gone senile. He said, "Daughter? I am not interested in her, and I didn't even know you had one." The king replied, "Not my daughter. April is the pride of the Horsens continent and the flower of the royal family." Deus said, "No, I don't need her. What I need is the royal family." The king got angry and shouted, "Why do you desire what isn't yours?" This king didn't even realize that he was not in the right to negotiate and still shouted something like that. This old man should learn from Lloyd Frontera on how to negotiate. Going back, hearing the king raise his voice, this hit the nerve of Deus. He said, "What did you say? Then, is this all yours?" The king replied, "Of course, the kingdom belongs to the royal family." Deus glares at him and asks him since when. Deus said, "Did this world belong to you the first day it was created? You also took something that belonged to someone else. The royal family? If you have enjoyed yourself for decades while sitting on that throne, surrender it so I can take it." The king told him that he cannot take it. The king said, "Do you think that the Sanctus Maximus Populi will acknowledge you?" Hearing that made Deus laugh. He said, "Sanctus Maximus Populi, huh? Who cares about that, you idiot?" Then he kicked the whole ground, which made a strong tremor. The whole castle exploded. The MC looked at the surroundings and the soldiers were really burnt to crisp. He looks at the king, who is still sitting on the throne, also burnt to a crisp. Deus said, "Seems like you don't have any blood. If you did, then you would have been able to withstand several seconds more." How boring! This MC literally cooked someone in the first chapter, cooking until it turned into ashes. Deus looked at the sky and told the god that he was disappointed because the guys in that kingdom weren't prepared at all. Deus looked seriously and said, "Well, it is going to be a while before a pure blood awakens. Is there still 20 years left? Originally, the day that I will descend is usually not this time.